Hey there guys, I am SonicGhost and welcome to another challenge. Today, we're here in the world of Splatoon 3 to play a brand new challenge of some sorts, and I'll explain what I mean by that phrasing here once we get into the game, because we're here at the top of the hour in Splatoon 3, which means we're right at the very beginning of the first and only rotation for this set challenge, because today we're playing the tournament test run for Japan. This challenge here is aimed to be a practice for an upcoming tournament qualifier challenge that's going to be happening not too long after this said challenge, in about 2 weeks time. So today's challenge is going to be a test run through for that said tournament qualifier. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the tournament test run here for Japan. Brush up on your skills before throwing down in a tournament. This challenge serves as a practice run for future tournaments in Japan, but even though we're not from Japan, we can still participate in this said challenge. We just will not be eligible to qualify for any upcoming tournaments in this said region. You want to learn more about this said tournament? Nintendo does provide you a link and a QR code sending you to a website talking about upcoming tournaments that is going to be ran from this said company. And this is something we kind of delved into in the past with a tournament qualifier challenge we played about like a year ago on the channel, but this time around the format is slightly different. So we're going to be playing our 5 rounds here as normal, but I will be adding in an extra round to get ourselves a shout token, because this is the only time we can play this challenge between this small window of 6 to 8 a.m. Eastern time. And you're noticing I am talking with my hands here, which means I'm not playing the game. The controller is just sitting over here next to me, turned off. Don't even have my switch on for this. Since I recorded this such an early time slot, I obviously did not want to have any kind of commentary at 6 in the morning. People were sleeping around me here in the house, but also I am barely awake at this hour, so I wouldn't be able to function with commentary. It's honestly a surprise I was able to function enough to play Splatoon at 6 in the morning. But hey, things I do for content. So jumping in here, we are playing Splat Zones, and the maps here are Manta Maria and the Ramen map here in Splatoon 3. So our goal here, as always with Splat Zones, is to gain control of that said zone and hold on to it for as long as possible to gain more points. And obviously we want to get to a knockout stage if we can, but it's not always going to be feasible, especially given since this is a tournament test run, so this is essentially as close to being in the competitive scene as possible without just flat out entering a tournament ran by people in the competitive scene of Splatoon. So this tournament test run here is going to have us fighting a lot of aggressive players, because the Splatoon competitive scene is filled with a lot of really good players at this point, especially given how Splatoon is just shy of 2 years old at the time of this challenge happening. We have players like this one, for example, with this E-leader that can easily just snipe me out of the air with a quick flick shot. So it's been over 9 years of Splatoon existing, and this game specifically being out for about 2 years in general. People have gotten really good at the Splatoon games. It doesn't matter what mode you talk about. Turf War, Splat Zones, Tower Control, Rainmaker, Clan Blitz, Salmon Run even. People are really good at the Splatoon games. So we're going to have a uphill battle to fight here, but I do enjoy playing these challenges, and I do enjoy playing against people with higher ranks too, because I'm someone who tries to get their rank up. I mean, currently in this season, I got the S+, and I am in X rank, so I do have a potential to play a lot of higher ranked players in general, and I have played against some people in the competitive scene just in solo queue, so I have experienced some more competitive aspects of Splatoon, maybe compared to your average Joe, but that's because I've worked hard to get to this status in Splatoon itself, at least for my own ranking, so I can, play with some of the best. That way I can actually gain more experience from playing with those set players. Know what I can do and can't do in certain matches. Have a better awareness situation so I know what to do, where to go, who's around me, stuff like that. This is a game I just really enjoy playing, so I'm always trying to get better at it. Like that kind of tactic, for example, getting 2 people just by jumping off of the side here with my Nautilus fully charged and then just taking them out while in the air. That is something I wouldn't have been able to do years ago, but now obviously I'm a lot more accustomed to not only the weapons I play, but also their strengths and their weaknesses. So it really does help to have all this kind of knowledge and this kind of experience jumping into a tournament itself, because if you're actually going to be qualifying for a tournament, you know you're going to be fighting a lot of the higher ranked players in this game. You're going to be fighting the best of the best. So be prepared to put up a fight and be prepared to lose a lot. You learn a lot from losing, so don't feel discouraged if you do end up losing a lot of your games, because that's going to help you get better for future tournaments and just in general make you a better player. I've learned a lot over the years playing a lot of different competitive games, and Splatoon is no exception to that rule. Now this game here, we got a very back and forth between my team and the opposing team, while the other side is ahead at this point with a remaining 26 on the board. We keep on taking that zone back, and we're gaining a lot of points too. And the penalty times between the two different sides right now, there's a good amount of a penalty between us, but it isn't the worst. So easily one team, they can hold the zone for long enough, can start gaining more points. So in this case, the opposing team, if they can hold that zone for about half a minute or so, then they will start getting points, which we don't want to see that. So we're going to keep on fighting. We made them lose control there for a moment, and right now we're doing a really good job going back and forth contesting the zone here in the middle of Ramen. And one thing to know about this challenge is that this map is a single splat zone, but Manta Maria is going to be a 2-zone map. So the 2-zone maps are a lot harder to win in general for splat zones, because that's a second zone you have to worry about, and you have to have control of both zones to even get points at all. So if one zone you lose even for a fraction of a moment, then that is going to be game, just like so. This was a very good starting game. This was a very back and forth one, so it wasn't an instant knockout. So even though we lost, we still put up a good fight, and I am proud with how this game ended. Not really too much to say on this one, because it's just your average splat zone game, especially at a higher level, where you're going to have a lot more people going back and forth, focusing on painting the zone, but also not necessarily just painting the zone. People are going to flank around trying to take you out from areas you may not be paying attention in, so you have to really be mindful of your surroundings, especially in a map as big as Ramen here. And yeah, that's pretty much it for game one. I can never say its name fully, so that's why I always call this map the Ramen map. I know it's Rome, you know, play on the word ramen, but I just call it Ramen map because every time I try to say it, I just don't say it correctly. That's just a me thing though, but yeah, that was game one. Again, that's a single zone map. When we get to Manta Marina, that's going to be a 2-zone map, so if we lose control of the zone for any short amount of time, then that's when we'll stop gaining points. But it's easy for one team to contest the zone and completely take it over, but to have control of the other zone in question. So the 2-zone maps, you're probably going to play out that full 5 minutes in a lot of situations, because it's going to be a lot harder to gain points as a whole compared to a single zone map. And we'll see which games are longer between Ramen here and Manta. It can really also just depend on the teams we're fighting, the different weapons we have as well. There's a lot of different factors that will go into this. But let's jump into game number 2, which is at Manta Maria. So, jumping right into that 2-zone map after talking about the gimmick. We got ourselves a healthy selection of weapons here, but we're fighting against a 2040 team, so we lost our first game. It was already kind of higher rank, but it was a 1900. So by losing, we went up. Yeah, sure, okay. Let's just jump into the deep end after having a back and forth first game that ended in a loss. That just makes sense. Let's just jump in here and try to do our best in the very beginning. So, as I said before, we gotta gain control of both zones, so the other team has already done that. And they are using a lot of their specials here right away. So we got a Booyah Bomb coming in. That's the special we really got to be worried about the most being used, because it's a gold arrow spray. Gold arrow spray get their Booyah Bombs all the time. And this one specifically has 2 mains of special charge up. So they're playing for that Booyah Bomb. And the other special we got to be worried about here is the Trizuka, because the Gluga Doolies is going to be playing for that Trizuka a lot. And that's going to be very devastating. We saw in the last game, we had a really good Trizuka player just shooting people out of the air, like me, for example, and then just hitting people through walls as well. Trizuka is a very devastating special in this game, and it's very easy to get killed by one of those because it can two-shot you if it's hitting you with the outer blast radius, or if it's getting a direct shot, it'll be a one-hit KO. So you have to be really careful where you're at by the time the Trizuka comes out, which you have mere seconds of hearing that special being popped, seeing where it's located, and running away trying to find cover. Not much time to avoid being attacked by the Trizuka. That's why it's one of the most devastating specials here in this game. But right now, we're down pretty much all my teammates. It's just me here, the lonely Nautilus, and I am being bombarded by people. I might have took out the Gloogadoolies, but their Nautilus took me out, which is a shame because I just got my special, and that would have been the time to use it, but didn't have a chance, and same for the rest of my team, because that is game number 2. Already done. That was a very fast game. And it's unfortunate, once again on this one, we lost, but as a reminder from earlier, a loss isn't that big of a deal if you learn from that set experience. In this case, there is a lot to take away from this because we notice how there was a lot of situations where my whole team was out for the count for a while there. So a map like this, you have to realize there's not as many flank paths, so you have to learn what areas are good to be at, what areas are not safe at all to be in. So there's a lot of knowledge to take away from the loss in general. And this is just a tournament test run, so there's no consequences here to lose, since there really isn't anything on the line. The next challenge show, the tournament qualifier, that's where wins will make a bigger difference, because the people who have the higher challenge power at the end will qualify to participate in an upcoming tournament from Nintendo. Or at least if you're in the Japan region. Here in the United States, I just don't really have any say in this, but I'm just playing the challenge so I can play the challenge at this point, and that's perfectly fine by me. But now we're swapping out weapons. Instead of playing with a Nautilus 79, going back to tried and true Nautilus 47. This kit specifically with the Ink Storm is a better use case for the Nautilus here for splat zones, because I find that this specific Nautilus is really good for zones compared to the other one here in the game, 79. I mean, the other one's better because it does have suction bombs, so if you're a bomb user like myself, you know, always trying to use the bombs to flank out people or just to do damage in general, then the other Nautilus might be a better pick, depending on the mode especially. But here, for splat zones, it makes more sense for me right now to have Ink Storm because that can cover up a zone almost in its entirety if we get the 2-zone version here. So for Manta Maria, this weapon's going to be really helpful there. And I also traded out my bomb for a point sensor, which, again, we're playing on a really big map and also a map that has a lot more stuff going on in the midsection. So it will help to have this said point sensor. So let's jump back into Manta Maria here for game number 3. And now we see our challenge power is a 1710, so things feel a little more balanced at this point instead of going up again after a loss, because that would be confusing. Let's just jump in, and this weapon setup is pretty much favored for us by comparison, because our team has Dually Squelcher, Nautilus, Explosher, and the Charcoal Decavitator, but the other side has an Ink Brush, an Octo, excuse me, not Octo, it has an Ink Brush, it has the Order Roller Replica, thinking of Splatoon 2 Octo expansion for a minute there with DLC, Forge, Splattershot Pro, and a 52 gal. So our team is more focused around range compared to the other side. I mean, the other side has 2 very short range weapons compared to us having everything but range. I'm the shortest range one here, and that's saying a lot because Nautilus still has a pretty healthy range to it. But the longest range they have on the other side is the Splattershot Pro. So we're going to be pretty much outranging everyone here in this game, so that's already going to help things a lot. Using my point sensor, I can mark someone across the shipyard here and see where they go, so I can keep an eye on opposing players here to see if they're trying to move into the zone or not. At this point, we got a Booyah Bomb coming in, so we're going to get out of the way, take out that 52 gal, move back, but unfortunately that bomb's a little too close for us, and the Force Splattershot Pro was able to move in, taking advantage of that bomb being close that I had to retreat. So I had to focus on living, and by doing that, I got killed. How ironic. But moving back into the game here, we got ourselves more control of the map. Right now it's very back and forth because they're being 2-zone. The 2-zone maps have smaller zones in general to compensate for having two different zones compared to one, because when you combine the two different zones together, they're roughly about the same size as a one zone setup for a lot of other maps here. So it's not really a difference in terms of sizing when you combine the two different zones, but it's very easy for these zones to be taken over. I mean, a zone of this size, you could just use almost any special in the game that paints, and boom, now you have the zone all controlled. It's pretty easy. Take like a Booyah Bomb or a Reach Slider, for example. One of these two would just instantly get capped. Just that easily from any of these kind of AoE styled specials with paint. But right now, my team is in the lead, so we're doing pretty good here. Want to keep that push up. Keep an eye on things here with the map, see where people are moving in. I do see a roller and a 52 over here. Or no, it's the ink brush, because I seen the killer whale activate before I saw the weapon. And in this setup, there are two people on the opposing side that have killer whale, the 52 gal and the ink brush. So if I only see the special, I have a 50-50 knowing which one it is. But it's good to pay attention to those icons on the top because it tells you when players are alive, when they're down for the count, but also when they have a special ready, and that goes for both your side and the opposing side. So it really does help to look up at the icons and see if someone on the other side has a special to prepare for that, and maybe even focus on taking out that player so they can't use their special. So keep an eye on the icons on the top of the screen here to see when people have specials and when they're alive or back in spawn, because they have to respawn. But we got ourselves the lead here once again with these zones. Now we're going to push down that said timer. Got a pretty big penalty here, but we have more than enough time to push down that penalty here to still get a KO. And it looks like everyone here from the opposing side is in their base area, so I ended up throwing my Ink Storm around that area to pressure them back, especially in an area we can't really reach, so it's good to do chip damage on that section of the map, and then we can capitalize by just picking them off with some shots, or even like throwing a bomb over on a ledge. And that Mac guy, he has some lag, so a little worried about dying after getting that kill, because if someone's lag is too aggressive, then you will just die after that player is already spotted. It's a little confusing, if you ask me, but that's just your latency difference in this game. But there you go, that's game number 3 in the books, and we got a victory. So with that, it was a knockout too, so we're going to get a lot of points for that, and a lot of money, which is good, because I got a money ticket on. You know me, gotta give me that cash. Too many things to buy in this game. I'm always out of money. As soon as I make it, right out the door buying gear. But game number 3 done. And now we're ready to move on into game number 4. So I'm thinking this Nautilus setup is working out pretty well for me. So I'm going to stick using this build. This is what I used before the Nautilus 79 was released here in Splatoon 3. So this is the setup I've always used with this weapon. A lot of run speed, a lot of swim speed. And the shoe specifically, I trade out having bomb resist up for some special saver, mainly just because I find more merit to have special saver, at least with this setup, than having bomb defense. Even a bomb defense would still be really useful running into a lot of different bombs, because getting the chip damage from a bomb if I'm far away, I'll take less of it if I have some bomb defense, but in this setup, obviously, I don't have that, so I'll take more damage, and then someone can easily 1 to 2 shot me afterwards if I'm not careful. But having bomb defense would make it so that that chip damage you get less of, so now there's a higher chance maybe you can survive. Maybe that'll be a 2 to 3 shot instead from a different weapon. So it is good to have that. I mean, the holy trinity of subs to have on your setup usually goes having a quick super jump, an ink resist up, and a bomb defense as your 3 different perks. But I do say Sub Safer is also a pretty useful one, and same for Intensify Action, I should say. These are the 5 super useful things to have as just one sub of in general, which I don't know why I'm holding like this. This is 5. I don't need the other hand. But I guess in this argument, like, one of these could be interchangeable depending on your setup. Like Intensify Action, you may or may not need. You may or may not need Bomb Defense. You may or may not need Special Saver. It really just depends on what you're using, but you would always want to have a Sub Saver and a quick super jump, because those two alone do so much. You do not want to run any builds in these games without at least one sub of both of those abilities, because they just make that big of a difference. Quick super jump especially getting you into the action a heck of a lot faster for just one sub alone. And then Ink Resist, also major difference, because that can be a life or death difference being stuck in the ink for a short amount of time if you have Ink Resist up or not. It's just that helpful of an ability, so I'm always using at least those 2 things. But again, the bomb and the special save and maybe even intensify, those will change out just depending on what I'm using, what I'm fighting, stuff like that. But we're going into game number 4 here. I haven't even talked about the game yet because there's really not much to talk about here. It's the same map as before, but this time around, we are really pushing in, and we're doing good here so far because we have a massive lead on the other side, and they're not even able to get into mid of Mantaria here. So we are keeping that opposing side out. We are pushing in as hard as we can. Got a zip cast to come for me, which immediately gets taken out. So see you later, buddy. At this point, just paint the zone immediately right after someone takes it over for a moment, take out their Tri-Slosher, get a wipe out at the end, securing the victory for game number 4. So that's another game in the books. Pretty fast set of games so far, if you ask me. At least compared to earlier on, where we're having some issues and losing in the beginning. But now we got 2 wins under our belts. That's 2 wins, 2 losses, 1 more game to go, and then we'll have our challenge power calculated. So at this point, with those 2 wins, 2 losses, based on the teams that we're fighting with their challenge power, we're probably roughly around the 1800 range. I would think maybe around mid 1800 range, if that. So next game is going to determine if we win or lose, if we're going to stay in that 18 range or if we're going to go up to the 1900s. So we'll have to see, depends on what we fight and also how good or bad that we do in the next game. But that's what we got left. 1 more game, and then that is going to do it, or at least it would normally. But again, this is the only time slot available for this challenge, because the tournament test run and tournament qualifier challenges, these are more designed just to be a one-off kind of challenge, which is why it's only 1 time slot available. So these challenges are meant more for that specific region to have this specific slot that they need to participate in if that said person wants to be eligible to enter an upcoming Splatoon held tournament by Nintendo. So this is very similar to if you're going to enter any other tournament. You have to be there at this specific time range and play in this specific range only. You're not going to have this happen later in the day or maybe a different day. No, it's going to be this day, this time. That's it. No do-overs. You got to be here. That's because of how many people they're going to have to enter the tournament. They need to kind of have everyone participate around the same time and get a gauge of how people do from that specific slot. So it makes sense why this is the only 1 time slot. It does suck, though, that it's super early in the morning for my sake. But again, this is not for my region. This is for Japan. So it makes sense why this is super early for us, because it's not 6 in the morning for Japan. This is more around like afternoon, evening time for Japan. So this is more designed for them, as you would imagine. You know, with the Japan name in the title of the challenge and all, more designed for Japan. Who would have thought? Well, this is our final game here, back on the ramen map. We got ourselves an Author Brush and a Splasher. I'm still Nautilus. We got a Slosher, and we're fighting the Stringer Nouveau. Looks like we got Splatter Shot Junior, Custom Junior, Charcoal Decapitator, and another Tri-Slosher. So we're going to see a lot of ink strikes both from our side and their side due to the Sloshers, excuse me, not Tri-Slosher. But the Sloshers are both going to be using the strikes a lot to cover up the map. So we're going to definitely want to cover this up with our own special as well. So throw out the Ink Storm, get that covered on the said map. And at this point, we're just pushing in, doing a really good job of keeping this zone covered, but also doing a good job at contesting at any time that the other side paints it just enough so it stops our count. So at this point, let's jump back in because we only have a few more points left to get on the board. So let's push back in, take out that Charcoal Decapitator when they're swooping in for a kill. So I take the kill by taking them out. Get more of these players out of here. Keep on painting because we're right at the finish line, and that is game. A very fast game to end it, and that was an 1870 team as well. So I'm going to imagine now with that win, which makes 2 losses but 3 wins, that should put us around the 1900s. And if I had to take a guess, that's probably going to put us around the mid section of 1900s, maybe closer to a little bit to the lower end, but I'm going to say mid 1900s is going to be a range of our said challenge power. So now that's done, calculate our power, and sure enough, it's a 1970, so slightly higher than what I was thinking, because I was thinking around 1950, maybe 1960 at the most. But 1970 is a little bit higher than what I was thinking. So that's a good score, given how that was only just 5 games. But how about we play one more game for this video, as now I just want to finish up this rotation so I can get my shell-out token. So at this point, I'm playing for that final win, and I got myself a different weapon here. I'm playing with the auto shot replica because I just wanted to change it up at this point. Since it's just a tournament test run, not a qualifier, I can play a little more lax on this one, just kind of experiment around with different weapons. And I do like using Tenatech Splatter Shot, in this game because it has Splat Bomb and Triple Ink Strike here as its kit, so it's a pretty solid weapon. And I like using the auto shot version of the weapon itself. I just like how it looks. So we're playing with this setup, got ourselves a Tacticooler on our side, but they also have one too, because they also have an NZAP. So we're going to have Tacticoolers going back and forth between the 2 different sides here. So you're really feeling how this is in a more competitive style, given the weapons we have here. We got 2 different Tacticoolers on both different sides. We got ours with the Dynamo Roller, and they have an NZAP, which will probably get cooler a lot more often. And then we also have powerful specials on our side. Like I got Triple Ink Strike, really good for splat zones. They got the Killer Whale here coming out, which is good for pressure. We got Splatter Color Screen, which is also good for some pressure. So we got a lot of different weapons here that you're going to see in a little more of the higher ups, especially given how we got Squeezer. That's one of the most powerful weapons in this game still. It's a 3 to 4 shot depending on its firing mode. And you also got the Trizuka special, which is the most powerful special in this game. We're going to break it down. Trying to take out this 52 gal, and unfortunately, they got me because they're a 2-shot, I'm a 3-shot. Missed one of my shots, they didn't miss any of theirs. I'll get you next time. I got your number. Let's go back into the set area. I do see a Tacticooler down below, so we grab that. And with Tacticooler, we got fast respawn, super fast jump, and we can keep all of our special when we die. So no worries about going too aggro here, since we're going to have Cooler in our system for roughly 17-ish seconds, somewhere around there. Especially depending on how much special charge, or not special charge, special power, that our Dynamo Roller has. So we can have it for a little bit longer if they have a lot more special power up on their build. But it's good to be very aggressive when you have Tacticooler on, because there's no worry about losing your special. So when you come back in, you can just immediately use your special to get back into the action and cause a lot of disturbances. Hey, I told you before with that 52 gal deco, I had its number, and I wasn't wrong because I took him out the second time we met up. Got some more Tacticooler in us, so let's go and push into the enemy base area. We got ourselves a paintbrush here, which took me out, but that's perfectly fine because, as I said before, super fast respawn time, and I got to keep all my special meter. So we're right back into the action. Almost got a full special here. Take out that ink brush. Be careful of those Killer Whale shots, which thankfully didn't get all the shots out. I only got some of it out. Paintbrush took me out, but that's okay. Team is doing okay here to contest the zone. We're going back and forth right now. The opposing side took it over just enough, so it's stopping the points. And now they took it over entirely. So we got a penalty we got to work down. The other side has one too, but it's very minor. So they're going to start getting points here in just a moment. So we want to push back into the midsection here of Ramen. Get ourselves our special filled up, because if I can, I want that special filled so I can chuck my strikes into the zone just like so, and that will at least pause the opposing team's control of the zone for a moment. So we use that to our advantage to push back in. Got taken out there, but that's perfectly fine with the cooler in me. Didn't really matter. We're right back in the action within 3 seconds. So now we're back in. Want to keep mid focused on and painted. Got a paintbrush here. Took out, I don't know which one of the weapons. I was not paying attention this moment. It's too high paced. But at this point, there's only this one weapon here in mid. The others are back in the base. Take them out. That was the NZAP. At this point, we got taken out by their 52 gal deco, so they have my number back on speed dial. Took me out. And now we want to jump back in because we have game in the books here if we can keep the zone painted. Because a 3, 2, 1, that is game. Only a few points left on the board, and once that penalty went away, it was only a matter of time for us to take that W. So with that game done, that means I got myself a shell-out token. And now we get to see what my free roll is, given how that always gives you something interesting. But this challenge also took place right before Summerfest happened here in the Sizzle Season 2024 for Splatoon 3. So right now we're in the peak of a Splatfest getting ready to happen, which means we get conch shells to use at the shell-out machine. So that means even more free rolls. And because of that, we can get a lot of stuff out of that shell machine. So this is a really good time to be playing Splatoon. So getting that catalog up, really good to have more free things. But our high score there at the end is 2005, so that's where I just stop at this point and go get my rolls. So I have my first play of the day here to do. Roll that. I get Turn of the Century Ideal Person. Interesting title. Sure. Let's go ahead and get a roll from the conch, which that gives us a banner. Pretty interesting looking banner, but I want to see what my next roll is going to be. With this, got ourselves a pack of cards. And inside this pack, we got ourselves 2 new cards I didn't have, so that was some good pulls. And our final roll here is from the challenge itself with the shell token. This is yet another pack of table turf cards, so let's see what's in this pack. Got ourselves the Tentacerella Umbrella, so yet another new card we didn't have. So that's 3 new cards we got from our trading pack. That's pretty nice. But now it's the end of that rotation. Got a new set, which means the power results are in, so we can check the leaderboard. We can see we placed in the top 20 here for this tournament test run challenge. So overall, we did pretty good given how I was only really playing until I got the tokens. So that was like about an hour of gameplay. So I'm pretty happy with those results. And that was a good test run, as the name implies, for the upcoming tournament qualifier challenge, which we will be tackling that challenge in the next challenge video. So come back here later in the week if you're watching this video when it goes live here on YouTube for the tournament qualifier challenge. So with that said, thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you guys next time.